Okay, just as we have more people joining us, I just want to let you know we're going to get started here in just a second. My name is Emmy Henley with the Reform Alliance. If you have questions, there is the Q&A button at the bottom, and you can put those in there throughout the webinar, and we're going to answer as many as possible once we get to the end of this. So tonight I am joined by Laurie Lee, who is with the Reform Alliance. We also have Spencer Watson from our team who is going to be helping me with questions and any technical difficulties I may face. And then we also have Daryl Smith with the Arkansas Department of Education who is going to let us know what microschools are, how we can get those started, and how we can move forward in Arkansas. So, Laurie, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, hi, I'm Laurie Lee, and I am the executive director and chairman of the Reform Alliance, and been working in the school choice space for about 2 decades, and we're very excited about the the avenues that the Learns Act has provided. One of those being microschools, which Emmy and I got very excited about back in 2019, right during the pandemic, and it came in handy. And so we set up several across the state. And then the Learns Act passed, and with the department, we really worked hard to make sure that microschools were a part of the modeling that was accepted through the EFAs. And so we're very thankful for Dr. Smith and his leadership over there at the Department of Education, and really working hard to give parents the broadest use of EFAs available, and making sure that the micro school is a model that is becoming an emerging class all of its own. And so I think to date we have well over 100 micro schools across the state, and we're looking to help you and work with you to set more of those up in the coming months.
Awesome. Thank you, Laurie. Daryl, I will just let you introduce yourself and kind of take it away, and we will go from there. Oh, you're muted.
And I had such a great introduction. Well, hey, thanks everybody. I appreciate that, Lori, Emmy, Spencer, for allowing me the opportunity just to talk a little bit about microschools and the EFA program here in the state. Certainly appreciate you all taking some time out of your schedules to be with us today on a nice warm evening. I hope you're all sitting by a fireplace someplace, enjoying this webinar. I think that probably the best place to start is just to say, what is a microschool? You hear the term a lot, and you're like, well, what is it? Is it a school? Is it a private school? Is it a co-op? What is it? Probably the best way for us to describe what a microschool is, it is a collection or an organized collection or gathering of homeschool students for us. I mean, that's probably the easiest way to think about it. It's microschools really are service providers to a group of homeschool families who have decided that they want a certain educational model that best fits, their students. It could be 5 kids together. It could be 10 kids together. It could be 200 kids together. So microschool is not necessarily the number of kids that you have in your group, even though you would think it's typically they're 10, 15, 20 kids. I mean, that's probably an average size, but they can be bigger. But what it really is just it's a organized service providing or organized group providing a service to a group of homeschool families. And so that's probably the easiest way to describe a microschool. There's a lot of national organizations like Prenda, KaiPod, some of these that help microschool founders get started. They have resources. Some of them have educational software that can really help you get some things started. So, but you don't have to use that. You could just be a teacher who says, I've got 5 kids in my neighborhood and they don't, the public school system right now is not a good fit for them, right? And they want a place to go. And so this teacher would just say, okay, I want to teach these 5 kids. And with the Education Freedom Account now, that makes that possible. The Education Freedom Account will open for the 26-27 school year, will open on March 1st. It will close on June 1st. And right now, everybody's eligible. As of this past year, we have universal eligibility in Arkansas, one of the few states that still has true universal eligibility, which basically means if you live in the state and your child's 5 by August 1st, you can receive money from as part of the Education Freedom Account. Next year, I believe that number is like 7208. I think. Don't quote me exactly on that, but it's right in that ballpark. That will be the amount of funds that you will receive as an education freedom in your education freedom account to use for providing an education for your child. So again, as we look through the whole micro school landscape, I think you'll hear Lori and Emmy and even Spencer and just nationally talk about it's the kind of this new wave of education because it's incredibly flexible and it can be anything that you want it to be. And it can be a 5 day a week, 8 hours a day. It can be a 5 day a week, half days. It can be 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 1 day a week. It can be whatever you want it to be. And that's what makes it so unique and so, I guess, palatable right now to parents and to families because it really can truly fit and adjust to the needs of each individual student. And that's what makes it exciting for us back, in Arkansas to be able to really try to become a leader in the nation in this kind of this micro school development because there's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of interest. I mean, just even on this call with the 40 or so people here on this call. I mean, you could, Lori and Emmy, you might want to speak into that. I know that you guys get calls literally every day from parents or maybe former teachers or others going, how do I get it started? What do I do? Where do I go? And so maybe I'll kind of turn it back over to you just for a second, and you guys just tell us a little bit about some of the interest that you're seeing in the state related to micro schools.
So I think one of the audiences that calls us the most are actually public school teachers, one that are looking for a different avenue to use their talents to open a school and really be able to teach children without the encumbrances of a private school or a public school that they may have been a part of. So they can set a schedule, serve the community that they want to serve, teach the curriculum that they want to teach and things of that nature. Another one are a lot of homeschool families who want to develop a co-op. And so it's the micro school in our view is like what school started back when America first started having schoolhouses. It's made up of varying ages, varying learning styles, varying everything. So, like Dr. Smith said, it could be 5 kids or 500. And it depends on how you want to set it up. If you want to go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, great. I think that to his credit and to the department's credit and to the administration's credit, they've given a lot of flexibility in this model to take it for families to take advantage of that. Um, and so with that, what we've done is we've reached out to people through our parent networks that have expressed an interest in this. And like I said, we've set up a lot across the state. I think to date, Daryl, you said there's like 108 to 110 that are actually registered EFA vendors. Now that's the ones that are registered. Now we know that there are several that aren't registered. So, take it that as you may, there, maybe 150 across the state. We at the Reform Alliance have worked very closely with an organization called Prenda, and not that you have to use Prenda, but we have used them to go and we call it micro school in a box. And so they know everything. Matter of fact, this whole concept being called a micro school actually started in Arizona by Kelly Smith, no relation to Daryl Smith,
Hmm.
in Arizona, who set up Prenda. And so he's a great guy, MIT grad, that set it up for his son and a couple of his buddies out there in Arizona about, I don't know, 10 years ago. And
Hmm.
so one of the things we want to do with this call, though, is answer your questions. So as Emmy said in the intro, there's a Q&A button at the bottom that if you punch on that, you can type in a question that you have. And we'd be more than happy to throw that to Dr. Smith or to one of us to answer it. Other than that, we do have some questions that have come in from people through our Facebook page or through email that we can start on Daryl, if you're good with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the next step, I mean, kind of logical next step is, well, how do you get started? What does that mean? What are kind of the technical side of everything? Well, let's start with just the EFA part first, because obviously that's what funds a micro school for the most part, and that's how things get started. So I think I mentioned earlier the EFA portal will open on March 1st. So that I'm sure you'll see it probably in newspapers and social media, and certainly on the Reform Alliances, all the communication from Reform Alliance. And while I'm there, let me just give a plug for the communications and signing up for the newsletters and the communication that Reform Alliance puts out. They do a phenomenal job of educating the public on what's coming up, school choice, and especially as it relates to funding, the EFA funding, philanthropic funding, the PAC, and soon the federal tax credit. We'll be probably kind of running through some of their organization as well. So would really encourage you, and I'm sure they'll give you some contact information towards the end of this webinar about how you can stay in touch with them. But certainly would encourage you to sign up for their newsletter, sign up for their social media, follow them on all the places that you follow people, and just check out the stuff that they do, because they do it. They're a great resource for EFA, for school choice, for micro schools, and things like that. So let's get back to the EFA. So EFA, the portal opens on March 1st. It closes on June 1st. And really, it's a pretty simple process. You're going to go to our website, you're going to click a button, and it's going to say apply here. And you are really essentially going to answer about four questions. You're going to give us your student's name, some basic demographic information. You're going to prove that you're a resident of Arkansas by giving us some type of like a utility bill or some kind of an official document that shows that you actually live in this state. And then we need something that just verifies your student's age so that we know that they are at least 5 years old by August 1st, which is the date, kind of the earliest you can get into the EFA program. Once we've verified those two things, you're in. And then at that point, you will be signed up. The first funding date starts around mid to late August. So that's the first time when money will show up in an EFA account. Now, EFA program money can be spent on almost anything related to education. Certainly, it's curriculum, it's therapy, it's tutors, all those types of things, but it's also supplemental resources and supplies and anything that you feel would be to benefit your student in the setup that you've created. So as a micro school, and you're looking at getting 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 kids together, you can buy the things that make a school, right? You can do the supplies and again some of the things that chairs and whiteboards and all the things that you need to provide an education for that group of students that you're serving. And so the money can be used for a lot of almost anything. Now, there are obviously some cost limits, and there's some reasonable things as far as what something can cost, and we'll walk you through all that as time goes through. But just know that there's very few limits on what you can spend as long as there's an educational value. And I think that's probably the key term that I just want you to kind of think through. What's the educational value for the things that we're providing? You can get on the website. It'll show you some eligible and some items that are not eligible, or some categories that are not eligible. You'll hear a lot of going forward about this thing called ordinary and necessary. It's about the way that we make decisions about the cost of things and whether or not it does feel like it's an educational value to your student. But I don't want to get too far in the weeds there. But basically, what you need to know is number one thing you got to do is get registered. You got to sign up for an EFA. You got to get in, you got to get approved. That's the first step. Second step for homeschool students is to fill out a notice of intent. You can start that on June 1st. Same thing, go to the department's website, fill out your notice of intent. That's again a very simple process. You'll click the button, you'll put your student's name, you put their grade, your address will tell you what district you're in, and then you click the button, say, I want to homeschool my kids, answer a couple little small questions, and then you're done. That's it. In Arkansas, once you fill out your notice of intent, you are officially a homeschool student, and that's all you got to do. Um, as the only, I guess, requirement for an EFA to keep an EFA account is that at the end of every school year, we ask that every student who is participating or is receiving money from an EFA program take a test, a norm reference test. There's about 18 or 20 of them listed on our site. Most of our homeschool families will take one of three tests. About 70% last year took either the Iowa, the Stanford, or the NWEA map. Atlas is coming on board. As years come on, we'll have Atlas will be available for more and more homeschool families. So that's the EFA part. So then the next part of that is the microschool part. So if you as a homeschool parent say, I've got some other friends or I've got some others that are interested and we kind of want to pool our resources and and really develop an educational model that we feel would be really great for our families. And so typically it's families that have like-minded, that maybe they're faith-based, maybe they're not faith-based, maybe they're STEM related, maybe they're outdoor related. That's completely up to the families. But this is where kind of that really the flexibility, this is where that kind of creativity, this is where you get to mold that model so it really is fits the students that you're serving. And so once you've got that, the next thing is that you'll come back and register with the with us with the EFA program or with Reform Alliance. Reform Alliance is going to be kind of one of our microschool network providers going into the 26-27 school year. And so you kind of can get under their umbrella, which gives you a lot of support and a lot of extra help in just getting things started, answering your questions, having a little bit of that covering that you just need to kind of help just really make sure that you're producing a high quality education for your students, as well as just some professional developments. Well, there's just a lot of services that they're going to be able to provide for microschools and microschool founders. And so I would encourage you, if you're going to be a new microschool or you're considering being a new microschool, or maybe you have one and you'd like to be kind of part of this network. So there'd be maybe some shared experiences and some shared resources to get in contact with the Reform Alliance, and they'll help walk you through a lot of those things. I
Daryl,
think,
we got some questions in the chat. If you want
yeah.
to answer a couple of those,
Well, let's see what they are.
just start at the top here. It says, can you tell us again the amount of EFA funds that will be this coming year?
Yeah, absolutely. So 7208, I believe, is the number. So divide that by four, and you'll figure out what's going to happen each quarter.
The next one is from Natalie. Is there a student teacher ratio?
There is not. One of the beautiful things about microschools is it can be anything you want. Your curriculum can be what you want. Your student to teacher ratio can be what you want. Obviously, 1 to 50 is probably not going to work, but 1 to 10, 1 to 15. Obviously, in public school, it's usually 1 to 25 or 1 to 28. But most people like it microschools because it's a smaller student teacher ratio.
The next one is what happens if a student fails their year-end standard test?
Well, I don't know if there's a way you could fail a norm reference test, but if we see that a student is significantly behind grade level, then what we want to look for is over a period of time, typically over a 2 to 3 year period, we're looking for improvement because we realize that there's some students that come, that maybe catch on a little bit slower, or maybe, things the light, they kind of, it takes them a little bit longer to figure some things out. And that's okay. We're not saying, we're not here to make sure that every kid is the top of the game right at the beginning. The goal is to make sure that we're seeing improvement. So wherever they start, we want to see that each year they're getting a little bit better. As long as we can see that they're getting better, we're good because that's the goal, right? We're closing the gap every year, and that's what we're trying to do. Certainly, we want to see how many, as much as we can, to get students on grade level, regardless of where they start. That's the ultimate goal for all of our students, whether they're in public school or private school or homeschool. But if a student starts off behind for whatever reason, the goal is to see improvement. So if we don't see improvement over a 2 or 3 year period, then we're going to have a conversation about what we can do to help support that student, to help support the parents, to help support the microschool, to ensure that the students getting every that we can help support and provide options for support, whether that's maybe making sure they're getting tested properly for any potential learning disabilities, or to find to point them towards a list of tutors that may be able to help them again close the gap, and just let them know what the resources are available to help their students improve.
Thank you. Thank you for all that. Another couple of questions is, can a micro school student still participate in organized sports at another school if those sports are not offered at the micro school?
So I guess the best way to think of this is don't think of the micro school as a school per se, all right? Because it is again, think of it from an EFA perspective that it is a organized group providing a service to homeschool. So all the homeschool rules apply to anybody inside the micro school because they're homeschool students. So homeschool students are allowed to participate in public school athletics, regardless. Now, typically you think of that in middle school and high school. I mean, not a lot of elementaries have sports per se. And so we're really talking about the upper side of the of educational, I guess, grade levels. So, but homeschool students are allowed to participate in public school sports based on by law.
Fantastic. Um, are teachers able to buy into the retirement as a micro school teacher?
Not right now. I mean, obviously, teacher retirement is what it is. It's teacher retirement for public school teachers. If you are a micro school teacher, you're not getting credit for that in your teacher retirement. So I know through Prenda and Kaipa, they can maybe talk to you about how to set up retirement funds or 401ks. And I'm not going to be a financial provider, a financial services person. So that's something I would certainly, if retirement's an important piece of the puzzle, certainly would talk to some of the experts in that world.
Another one says there's a lot of controversy over the EFA funding. Do you anticipate more requirements coming for families and or vendors?
I don't know that there's going to be any more requirements. I think the key, what we've got to do is just ensure that we're being very transparent with what's happening. Because I think, again, that parents are doing a good job educating their kids. What we need to do is just be more transparent about and help create the accountability that would just allow you still to do what you do, because freedom is freedom. We want that. What we want is to have, right now, the governor's idea is to empower parents. You hear that word a lot. And empowering means you have the freedom to develop the best plan for your kids. You know your kids is better than anybody else. You know what they need. You know what makes them tick. And so you know that the model and the educational system that they're going to operate the best in. So I don't anticipate, I mean, the goal is not to take things away, right? But there do have to be some guardrails for just consistency and for accountability and for just fidelity of the program to make sure that it's doing what it was intended to do, which is to provide resources for parents to teach their kids in the best environment possible.
And I'd like to make this point too.
Yeah.
This is an opt-in program. This is not mandated by the state that you take an EFA. You can open a micro school on your own. You don't have to take EFA funds. You can homeschool on your own. There's no obligation for you to apply for an EFA. But there is an understanding that if you apply and are awarded an EFA, that there has to be some accountability. And so I think the state and Dr. Smith have done a wonderful job of making sure that the funds are being spent the way that they're designed to be spent. And there's a report out by the University of Arkansas under Dr. Wolf that Spencer, would you put that in the chat? Spencer's put a whole lot of stuff in the chat for you guys, links if you want to access those. And again, if you've got questions, go to the Q&A at the bottom. But of the testing that went on, The first year there was an in-depth report that he'll put in the link for you to read of how the homeschool students performed, the microschool students, private school students, and public school students performed over that period of time. So I think it's really great of the state to put this program together. Also, having worked with many of the legislators that are responsible for this bill, I can tell you that their intent in this law is to give parents the most flexibility as possible. Like their intent is you're the parent, just like Dr. Smith said, you know your parent better than or your child better than anyone, and you should decide what's part of their educational journey. The state's mandate constitutionally is to make sure children are learning. And so, just like Dr. Smith said, this is not a testing field, this is a growth field. And so, we want to make sure that students are growing, students are learning, and that it's incumbent on the people that are taking the responsibility, the parent in this case, to make sure these kids are able to read, write, and do arithmetic. Um,
Well said.
well, thank you. Um, says, I've been asked if public schools get any funding if a homeschool student participates in sports. Do they receive funding for that class period, athletic period?
So by law, at this time, a public school gets 1/6 of the foundation funding. So foundation funding, I think, was like 82, $8,300 per pupil this year for public school. So they get that amount of money for every student that attends the public school. If a homeschool student participates in band or chemistry or physics or an AP class or athletics, if there's an athletic period, the this public school will receive 1/6 of that foundation funding for that particular student. So for as many courses as they are enrolled in the public school, the public school does get paid for that. I would expect, again, just I don't have a whole lot of, I don't think I'm breaking anything. I think they're potentially eventually the EFA funds, if you're an EFA student, would cover that 1/6 of funding. I don't know that for sure. Don't have nobody's, it's not on anybody's radar, I don't think. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised down here the next couple of years if the EFA, if your EFA dollars would go towards paying your public school course fees, which makes sense.
Fantastic. Thank you. If you're wanting to start a micro school in the 26-27 school year, when should you apply to be a vendor?
So the vendor applications, I believe, actually open in next week. I believe it's the week or the week after that. So you can get on the DESE webpage, click on vendor. There will be a microschool vendor application. It's relatively simple. You're just going to kind of give us your name, kind of tell us where you're at, tell us a little bit about the program that you're offering, and then you're going to tell us if you want to make your microschool public or not. Because there are times there are people that are looking for microschools, but they don't know where to find them. And there's several places I know Spencer's got some places I think he'll put in the chat, and I'm sure that I think we're going to cover that maybe towards the end here as well, of places where you can click and find out what microschools are available in your area, if any. Some micro schools want to stay closed and they just want to kind of, hey, this is our 10 kids that's in our neighborhood or in our church or whatever. And, we don't really want to make it public. We don't want to have open enrollment necessarily for our micro school. Others do. Others say, come on. And, all comers, let's roll. And so for those that want to make their micro school known to the public and kind of have more of an open enrollment philosophy, we have places where you can go and click on it. I think schoolchoicear.org is one of those places. You can type in microschool, type in your address, and it'll tell you everything that's in your area within about a 10 to 20 minute radius of your location. And so not only can you find one, you can decide if that's part of where you want to be there. Again, look in the chat. Spencer's got a couple other places up there that you can look. That's kind of it's a school finder. And for those micro schools that want to be found, that's where they will be.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm trying to find my place here. Do I have to be a licensed educator to start a micro school?
Once again, the beauty of microschools is that they are completely flexible. So a lot of microschools are parents, just like homeschool parents, that decided they wanted to educate their children. And then there's a couple other parents that say, well, if you're already doing that with your kid, would you mind help bringing my kid over too? And so all of a sudden, but before they know it, they have seven kids. And so, no, you don't have to be a licensed educator to lead a micro school. You have to have a heart for kids. You have to have some expertise. We'd like, to kind of know what you're doing and teaching. I know that, again, Reform Alliance is here to help you with that. There are a lot of resources for families, for teachers, regardless of whether you have a teaching in your background or whether you're just starting off and you just got a heart for your kid and you just want to teach them because you know that you can, that they need something different. There's a lot of resources out there to help, and these guys can point you in the right direction. I think maybe even down the road, maybe be doing some things to really in to provide opportunities for training to help, really elevate those that are leading micro schools.
Fantastic. Um, I saw a question on here now, I can't find it, about the facilities that have to be used. Is there specific facilities that have to be used for micro schools?
So we're going to go back to my big word of the night, flexibility. Uh, Micro schools can be anything, anywhere, anytime, taught by anyone. And so, you decide where you want to have it. It could be in your front, it could be in your kitchen table. It could be at a church Sunday school room. It could be in a community center that has an extra room that's available. Sometimes you may need to rent those rooms. Sometimes a lot of these facilities, if they're empty rooms, will because they're being used for educational purposes, will allow you to meet there 1, 2, 3, 4 days a week. So I think it can be anywhere you want. Certainly, you need to check with what what the laws are in that particular area, what the requirements are for meeting and some of those kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, it can be out. If you can find you an outdoor classroom somewhere, put it out in the outdoor classroom. And so that's again the beauty of a micro school is that it truly can be anywhere at any time, taught by anybody.
So I was going to share with that particular question, Daryl, that when we were running around the state helping people set up micro schools, we had folks, like you said, set them up in their kitchen, find churches that didn't use classrooms during the week. We had one gal, she called it her she shed. She had bought an outbuilding from Home Depot that she was going to have as her, her lady cave, and she decided to use that as a micro school. We've had homeschool co-ops that also had, a barn set up that they used that. Now, they've gone from a micro school to a private school. And so there are, boys and girls clubs, libraries, wherever you can find a meeting place. One of the natural things would be maybe partner with your church or a local civic club or um, a strip mall or a business that maybe hasn't gone fully back to work after the pandemic. There's a lot of brick and mortar buildings that could be repurposed. And so, we're here as an organization to help you map some of those kind of things out if you're struggling with that. Um, let's see. How does a micro school bill, how often would a micro school teacher bill the parent? Weekly, monthly, etc.?
That's a great question. I think that just depends again on, the way you're set up. The way the EFA program is set up is that each student will be funded on a quarterly basis. So they'll receive their first quarter disbursement sometime around mid to late August. Then another one comes somewhere around October, February, and then April. And so you'll need to kind of decide knowing, okay, that's when the families that you're serving would receive their money in their EFA account. So typically, most private schools and micro schools understand that, and so they will figure out a way to bill quarterly at that point. And so making sure that that it matches when the disbursement dates come from the EFA program. So, you know, you can do it separately from that. I mean, but again, I think it just depends on how the parents that you have, if they want to work off a reimbursement type situation versus a no out of pocket. So if you don't want their parents to pay out of pocket necessarily, and your tuition fits within the EFA allotted amount, then you're going to need to work for it probably on a quarterly basis. If your parents are okay with the reimbursement type setup, then certainly you can bill however you want, and then they'll get reimbursed when there's obviously money in their EFA account.
What's the difference between a learning pod and a micro school? Are there different requirements?
Those are all really semantics, honestly. I mean, 5 years ago, educational homeschool co-op, learning pod, all those kind of meant the same thing depending on what part of the country you were in. In Arkansas, we call them a lot, we call them, co-ops. That's when a group of the homeschool families got together and they kind of created a little organization and they kind of worked with each other. Now the kind of the homeschool co-op has kind of turned into a microschool. So I don't know that, we define in law a little bit. We say there's not that a microschool is not a learning pod. I think the key there is that a microschool is serving is an organized group that's serving homeschool parents, where a learning pod is just a group of kids who are, maybe learning a subject or learning, a certain thing and not really tied to the full education of that child. That's probably the easiest way I could describe that, where learning pod is very specific, where a micro school is a little bit more comprehensive in its educational focus.
Um, few people have asked this one. What's the difference between a micro school and a private school?
Well, microschools serve homeschool families. So that's the biggest difference. All right. The second difference is private schools are accredited. Microschools didn't necessarily at this point aren't accredited. There are more and more microschool accreditation organizations popping up. Not to limit microschools and not to put more restrictions on microschools, but again to help ensure that microschools are producing high quality education and to continue to resource them. Biggest thing I would say is that one serves homeschool students and one doesn't.
Okay. Um, Anything at this point you want to add, Daryl?
I was trying to think of some questions that maybe had came in earlier, and I think we've already talked about the notice of intent, and that has to be that's a big piece of the whole micro school. You got to have that notice of intent set up. I think there's another one, like how much do micro schools charge? That's an interesting, because we've been talking about money and how money is get together, and I think again it depends. It depends on what services you're offering. It depends on how many days of the week that you're offering those services. It depends on how long you're offering those services. If you're a 5 day a week, 7 hours a day, then you're probably going to charge more than if you're a 2 day a week half day. And so I don't know that there is a set fee, just like kind of for private schools, there's not really a set fee. It's based on the cost of education and what it costs to educate that particular child in that particular educational model. And so, now, certainly when you register your micro school, we're going to ask what the tuition is that you're going to charge. And one of the jobs that we're tasked with is to make sure there's not unreasonable inflation or unreasonable tuition and fees. And so, we'll probably ask some questions. If you're charging $20,000, we're going to probably ask you a question or two, right? And find out why, and then see what happens from there. But if you can justify your tuition, and I'll tell you that again, Reform Alliance can help you a lot in helping you set that an appropriate tuition based on the services that you're offering. Again, maybe another reason like you might want to be part of that kind of Reform Alliance network of schools. Certainly, it's another service that they can kind of provide for you. Don't have to be that. They'll help you without being part of that, but certainly they can help you out. Again, these organizations like Prenda, KaiPod, they can give you some really good guidance on what an appropriate tuition would be based on, again, on the services that you're providing.
Um, Do microschools need to be an LLC and be insured?
Again, I think it just depends on what you're doing and how you're set up and what the services are that you're providing. And I think I think the best way I can answer that, it's like you need to get with either the Reform Alliance or get with Prenda or some of those things and just talk through your model and talk through what you're doing and then allow them to then suggest appropriate, next steps, whether it is you know, don't necessarily need to be an LLC for the EFA program. I mean, LLC may be something more for taxes or some other things. Again, talk to your financial people about those types of things. But when it comes to insurance, I would probably say if you're going to truly be, more than just providing more like a tutoring type program, then it's certainly a good idea to have that type of coverage. But again, I would suggest that you talk with the experts, you talk with, again, Reform Alliance, you talk with Prenda. They can give you some really good guidance on if you need coverage, if you do, what type of coverage, and how much coverage do you need.
If microschools are not accredited, then how does the state designate when a child graduates? Will the state issue a diploma if the scores are sufficient, or must the child take a GED to get a diploma?
So in the state of Arkansas, homeschool families don't receive, if you go through the process and you're not at an accredited school, either a private school or public school, then graduation's kind of up to you, I guess. But if you turn 18, you've completed your coursework and you're ready to start college or career or go into the workforce or the military, that's when you graduate, right? I mean, so the state doesn't issue diplomas for homeschool students. That's a choice that families make to homeschool. Certainly, the GED is a possibility. Certainly, you can take students can take a, test and pass and get a GED, but there is no official diploma issued by the state for homeschool families or for homeschool students. Now, there are organizations who will create a transcript for you, but that's really it's not a diploma. It's not an official document. It really is just a record that just shows the courses that your student took.
Good. Oh, well, they're still coming in, Daryl, with EFA
I have
students.
started something.
Yes. With all EFA students required to take an annual achievement test, is the microschool responsible for giving that test, or is that the parent?
That again depends on the microschool. It could be either one. So if the microschool wants the responsibility of testing all the students, and that's part of the way they're set up, and that's part of the agreements they have with the parents, that's absolutely great. However, parents can go to the microschool and microschool says, "Hey, we're going to teach your student, but we're not going to administer the test." And then it would fall back on the parent to ensure that their student uh, took an appropriate test and then submitted the results.
Okay. Um,
While
the
you're still
student,
looking at those, Laurie, I was just going to, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think we strongly encourage everyone who's looking to start a micro school to write all of those kinds of things down. Like, do you want to be responsible for giving the test or do you want to put that on the parent? I think either one is sufficient. It would just depend on the people that you're serving, again, like Daryl said, but all of these things need to be established up front. And those are things that we can definitely help you with if you have those questions while you're starting.
Yeah, and I would just, and I think I'm just kind of I guess, follow up with that comment to say what I would suggest if you really are, I mean, if you're serious about starting a micro school and you're just not really sure what to do next, to contact these guys at Reform Alliance because they've got the roadmap and they know the people who have the roadmap and who've done it before and that basically, okay, here are all the questions that need to be answered. So you don't even have to think about the questions because they've already got the questions that they know need to be answered because that's half the battle, right? It's knowing what questions that need to be asked because a lot of times you're like, I don't even know what questions need to be asked. You don't know what you don't know. And so I would suggest that certainly it's always going to be to your advantage, and if you because you want to start right and you want to start off with a really solid foundation so that you can really build a high quality educational model for the kids that you're serving. And so my first stop would be these guys, and then let them, here's the list of questions you need to answer, and then you can have a discussion. And then they can get you in contact with, again, a different organization maybe and start that process, or they can help you, or you can go out on your own once you've got the questions and get after it. But it's really helpful just to have the list of all the things that you've got to think about, and they can give you that list of questions. And then if you want help answering them and figuring out, they can do that too.
We can also help find funding sources. We can also help you in recruitment. Our desire as an organization is to make you the most successful micro school you can be, and so that your students can focus on learning. And so, while we don't have all the answers, we do know people that have the answers. So, so just text or email us. I think at the end of this call, Spencer's going to throw up a slide with our contact information on it. Obviously, I think the majority of you came through to get on this webinar through our Facebook page. All of our contact information is on there as well. And we would be more than happy to come to your community and talk to a group of your parents or people in your community about starting a micro school, have a Zoom call, whatever it takes to help you be successful. One of the questions that you always get, that we always get, and I think Daryl's answered this in several different venues, is just how do you start a micro school? And the first answer from me is just decide you're going to do it. Decide you're going to do it. That's the first step. And then things like where you're going to have it, what your schedule is going to be, how much you're going to charge, what courses you're going to take, what curriculum, what's your audience going to be, what are your grade levels. Um, if you're first starting out and you're like, I don't want to have to decide all that stuff, I can tell you there's a couple of organizations out there that have turnkey products. KPod and Prenda are two that we know and have worked with. And they set up everything and they have everything there for you. And we have a connect to those folks, or you can go directly to them. What a lot of people ask, well, what do you get out of this? Well, we're privately funded, and so you don't have to pay us for any service. So you don't have to pay Daryl for any service. His job's with the state, so he's already funded. We're privately funded, so we're not charging a fee. We can help you if you're a vendor. We can help you if you're a parent, if you're a student, whatever it is. We'd be more than happy to assist you in that. So, as far as that, you can connect it with us in any of those venues. Another question that we've gotten a lot tonight, several times even more recently, is do you have to be a licensed educator to start a micro school? And you don't. And so, Daryl, if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I mean, basically, if you have a desire to teach kids, right, we'll help you get the next step. So no, you don't have to be a licensed educator. We would like you to be an educator, but there are some parents who are great educators, right, that never went to school to be a teacher. And we can certainly, and again, that's all part of that empowering parents to teach their kids and empowering parents to create the right environment, because there are some really phenomenal educators, as homeschool parents or as homeschool co-ops or as microschool leaders who are excellent educators. There's also excellent resources out, in today's world that that's just that really is a turnkey situation where you become more of a facilitator and you don't necessarily have to be the teacher, and so there's just a lot of great it's a great time, honestly, to do microschools and homeschool, because there are a plethora of resources out there for any type of model, any type of design that you want. I wanted Lori had mentioned something, and it reminded me to say it. If I don't say it now, I'll forget because I'm old. But If you have a group of homeschool parents that want to talk about EFA, that want to talk about microschool, that just want to talk about just, hey, life in general is, school choice in the state, you know, uh, let me know. Certainly, I'll be happy to come talk to your group, to your co-op, to your community, to your whatever. And if, again, either in person or via Zoom at night, day, morning, breakfast, lunch, whatever. And because again, my part of my job is to help make sure that I answer your questions and that that you have all the best information to make the best choice for you, for your family, and for your kids. And so, certainly want to make my office, myself available to you uh, in any way that we can to help answer those questions for you.
As the Reform Alliance, I would like to say that we do prefer lunch and dinner meetings. So I'm
Yeah,
just
stay
kidding.
off the
Just
breakfast ones. I don't
just a
know. It's
little
like,
humor. Just a little humor. Um uh
barbecue's always preferred.
but yeah,
That's it.
barbecue. Yeah, yeah, nachos. Actually the Reform Alliance standard meal is Mexican, so I'm just letting you know that's
Okay.
our
All
go-to.
right. Got it.
Um so another question, does starting a micro school and participating in the EFA mean I get funding directly from the EFA?
Eh, I guess it kind of depends on what directly means, but basically what happens is that every student, so a, a student gets funded. So an EFA, the Education Freedom Account is a student funded program. So the student gets funded, right? And then the parent then allocates where that money needs to go. So if your micro school is set up and they charge tuition, then the parent would then say, we want to allocate X number of dollars to micro school A. And so, yes, I guess in some sense, a micro school could be paid directly through the authorization of a parent authorizing their students' EFA money to go to that particular micro school. But we won't send money to the micro school. It goes to the student who then authorizes the next step and where what and who gets paid from that beyond, after that.
And I think there's always there seems to be a ton of confusion about how the funding streams, and you answered this early on, Daryl, but the parents are not sent a check. You don't get this
Correct.
money to deposit in your checking account. It works much like Amazon credit card. Like you have a card, a an account
Yeah, not a physical
that
card. It's like
yeah, not a physical card, but an account that you can spend that, almost $7,000 on in the portal, pre-approved um, uh, things,
yeah.
therapies, tutoring, curriculum, blah, blah, blah. So maybe Daryl answer the question, if they want to buy something that's not in the portal, and they want to use a reimbursement model, what is their best course of action to do that and make sure they get reimbursed properly?
Yeah, so from an EFA standpoint, there's three ways you can buy something, right? There inside Class Wallet, which is the portal that where your accounts reside. So think of it more like a savings account. Like we're going to put the money in that account. Now you get to allocate where it goes based on a certain certain eligibility criteria. So there's one where there's a marketplace, and that functions a lot like Amazon cart. You go, there's a whole there's some of the big stores, Best Buy, Office, the big staples like Office Depot, some of those types of organizations. Not Amazon or Walmart, not yet. They keep telling me they may be coming, but they're not there yet. But some of these other ones, and so you can just go on there, and we've kind of curated a list, and you just go on there, put stuff in a cart, and click the button. We review it real quick, and then once it gets approved, we send the money to that organization. They send the supplies to you. That's the first one. Then there's called direct pay, which is more like just vendors. These are your therapists and your tutors and your extracurricular providers and those type of things. And basically, that works kind of like an invoice. I go to you and say, I want, five piano lessons. And they say, okay, great. Five piano lessons are going to cost you $100. They create an invoice for $100. They send it to you. We put it up and you upload it we look at it, say, yep, piano lessons are eligible, and then we would pay the vendor. So we'd pay the person providing the piano lessons, and then you would get your piano lessons. Then, as Lori was mentioning too, if none of those work for you, it's like, but I want to go to Amazon and buy my school supplies. I want to, because they're having a great back to school sale, or I need to go buy this, want to buy a certain type of curriculum, and they're not on this list yet. So you can buy it, right? And as long as it's an eligible in one of the eligible categories, you can submit the receipt and make sure it has all, there's a couple things that have to be on the receipt. You can submit the receipt to us, and then we'll reimburse you for the amount that you spent, as long as it's not more than the money you have in that account. You can't overdraw an EFA account. And so, so you can use what the money that's in there. What's good about this, if you don't spend all the money, it does roll over from year to year to year to year up to, I think right now, currently it's like $20,000. You can actually, um, you know, kind of keep in escrow, I guess, or keep developing or keep in a savings, roll over from year to year. So.
Fantastic. Well, we're bumping up against time here, and we still have some questions rolling in. So here's what I'll let you guys know. If you have questions that weren't answered tonight, please feel free to reach out to us at the Reform Alliance, the Reform Alliance, not to be confused with Reform Alliance, which is a national um, organization that's different than ours. But here's our contact information and the Department of Education and Dr. Smith's contact information. Email us, call us, uh, X us, Facebook us, any of those things, and we'll answer. We greatly appreciate having Dr. Smith with us this evening. We've often traveled with him and his staff around helping folks set up microschools. If you're thinking about maybe your employer setting up a microschool, your church setting up a microschool, a business in your community setting up a microschool, you yourself setting up a microschool, those are your public school setting up a microschool. Those are all venues that are feasible and and can be done, and we would love nothing more than to work with you to do that. And like Dr. Smith said throughout this presentation, it is all flexible. It is dependent on you as the operator and as the parents that are going to participate in the microschool to decide those things. And we really, really want to be able to help you and assist you in your venture in education. So, Dr. Smith or Emmy, you guys got anything else you want to add before we let these folks go for the night?
I think
I
we ought to do a
don't.
speed round. We got 1 minute. Let's do a speed round.
What are we
Let's,
speeding?
whatever questions you got, let's do a 1 minute speed round for questions. Let's see if we can do it.
Thank you so much. Be in touch. Is first quarter funding isn't received until late August. How far ahead of time can I purchase curriculum for reimbursement?
July 1st.
Speed
Nice.
round. Golly.
Go on. That
There's
45 seconds. Go
I'm trying so hard here.
on.
Amy, what do you see? There's
I'm
a lot
sorry.
of
I was
pressure,
too busy
Daryl.
laughing
A
at you.
lot of pressure. A lot of
I will
pressure.
say if you did not get your questions answered, we would be happy to follow up with Dr. Smith and get those answered for you. Like Laurie said, you can email us, text us, X us, all the things. I think we even have a Pinterest out there somewhere. So,
Dang.
um,
Pinterest still a thing? It's
I
like,
I don't know.
It is if
hey,
you're trying to build a picture wall, Daryl.
okay, fair
It
enough.
is.
Hey, I want to throw one more contact information out there. I'm going to give you my cell phone so you guys can text me and call me if you need to. It's 501-231-2385. Feel free to again call me, text me if you got any questions. Happy to answer what I can, when I can. And so as long as you don't ask me anything really crazy, I'll promise to get back to you. So,
Well, thank you. And thank you, Laurie and Daryl, for joining us. Thank you all for taking the time out of your night to listen here. And like we said, we are all here to help you with your micro school questions. So please reach out if you have any.
good night, everybody.
Good
Stay
night.
warm.